Hey, welcome to the Virtual Pamphlet. My name is Rob, and I'm the host of the one-man show. Usually coming to you every Monday at 6 a.m. UK time, but we've had a bit of a difficult situation in the sense that I was recording on Sunday and my episode got thrown into the trash. My recording program froze halfway through it, and I couldn't recover any of it. So I was so mad I couldn't record again because I was like, you know what, I'm very annoyed. So I was like, you know what, let me just wait a bit and redo it. And here I am, and I reworked, and a good thing that I did actually, because now I have more up-to-date information about the topic today, and I'm ready to talk about it even further. So hopefully my notes are even better than the ones I had for the Monday episode, but this is coming out now on Wednesday, so still 6 a.m. Do not kill me, please, for that, but please catch up on it, and because I've done so much work on it, and I'm recording it twice technically, so I hate that for me, but I love that for y'all. You still get something this week, period. Anyways, so what are we talking about today? What is going on? Well, a lot. As usual, a lot. And this is so... no, I was about to it's so different for me, but it's actually not, because I actually did talk about politics every now and then in several episodes. I mean, sometimes I kiki a bit and I have a lot of laughs about several things in pop culture, but I think this is borderline pop culture, and I'm talking, of course, about the assassination of Charlie Kirk on the 10th of September, and it's borderline pop culture as well, because I think the internet, as usual, took it in the opposite direction, I guess, from what you would expect from someone dying, I guess. But also, how can you blame certain people? Because we'll get into Charlie Kirk's character in a moment, but he is very much an unlikable person for certain aspects of it. But not to say that he deserves to die, of course. That's not my main thesis. Basically, is that I have a lot of sympathy for his family, and I am, of course, denouncing violence, but I am also low on sympathy for someone who is frankly having, he had definitely a heavy hand on spreading misinformation and a lot of hatred and violence across not only the US, but I think overall the entire world, because he's a very prominent figure also in the podcast political podcasts sphere. So yeah, my emotional empathy is running low when it comes to these people, and I think it's a good lesson to learn that not everyone deserves your sympathy and empathy in that sense. So yeah, anyways, so quite sensitive as a topic and quite intricate. So first of all, I want to encourage people to just go and find for yourself many of these articles that are already online, and make your own, come to your own conclusions, I guess that's what I'm trying to say, and find your own voice in this whole situation. But so don't necessarily of course listen to one camp only, and try and get as many points of view as you can. But yeah, so, and again, if you don't want to hear about this, feel free to skip the episode, because it's just merely about this topic. So if you're not trying to be falling into a political rabbit hole, then cool, fine by me. But also you would be missing out. I'm just saying, there's a lot of quite interesting stuff overall that you can take away from this. So stick around, I would say. But anyways, as many of you may know, Charlie Kirk, influential American far-right political activist, was killed on the 10th of September, and during one of his organization's debate sessions is what, the way we call them, debate sessions, or just his own activities with the Turning Point USA. He was in Utah on the 10th of September, and he was shot by, currently the suspect is a 22-year-old guy who was enrolled in a university, as far as I know, but it's still quite unclear on the motives and whether it was actually him or not. There's still a lot left up in the air, but this is in summary what happened. He was was spearheading one of these debates at Utah University with this organization, and he was shot. The dynamics of the incidents are still pretty much unclear, and while details are still yet to be revealed, many theories, of course, have taken over on the internet and even on several news publications, to be fair. So, yeah. One of which has been even endorsed and acknowledged by one of Kirk's close friends and political activist with quite a bit following as well, which is, of course, Candace Owens. And I will be talking about her very, very soon as well. Now, before we get into what specific conspiracies are floating around and who Candace Owens is supporting or whatever she's standing against, we should first of, I think, set, I guess, a bit the scene with who is Charlie Kirk and why is he so important and why are people, talking so much about him? Why is the political right making him a martyr, like, despite many people dying every single day because of gun violence and many people dying in Palestine as well. So we'll get into that in a second. But first of all, who is Charlie Kirk? He was born on October 14th, 1983 in Chicago, and he briefly attended Harper College, but he soon after dropped out after a semester, I believe, just to pursue his own political activist project, that ended up becoming the TPUSA, which is Turning Point USA. So he founded this organization, like this political movement, I guess, or activist. He formed it he founded it in 2012. Sorry, like I'm challenged today, but with financial help from many wealthy donors. And let's just say that the Turning Point USA became probably one of the most important tools used by Trump in his re-elections to influence specifically the American youth, because again, much like what happened in Utah, he was going around several different universities and so infiltrating several different spaces used by young people to influence and create, different perspectives on the political right. So he gained fame through campus debates, as I said, and his recurring format was called Prove Me Wrong, the Prove Me Wrong table. And then he also expanded the TPUSA into different affiliates, which are the Turning Point Action, targeted at Democrats, and then Turning Point Faith, which is made to mobilize basically conservative churches. He also became, I guess, famous for creating controversial initiatives such as the Professor's Watch List and organized mass rallies targeting youths. Again, I would say that the prominence, like his prominence, I think became very clear when he started being invited in several different circles and podcast interviews, and like he was interviewed by several different publications as well. But he became also a very influential media personality, I would say. He hosted the Charlie Kirk show, which I think gained like 500,000 downloads already, daily downloads in 2024. He also developed a large online following with the Turning Point Live, targeted at Gen Z. Briefly then censored. It was briefly censored on Twitter, and then in 2024 he joined TikTok, where many of his videos became viral. And that's when I first heard about him and came across him, but mostly from, because you could imagine that my TikTok For You page and the algorithm is very much liberal, youth, Gen Z, like lenient, and he became like to give him credit, he infiltrated the right spaces, because despite me not being on conservative TikTok on conservative algorithms, it still reached me because he was going up against several liberal and left-wing Gen Z, especially for that I think Jubilee YouTube channel interview, like the debate table they had with a lot of young students, left-leaning young students. I think he became viral actually because of that. In 2025, I also launched Charlie Kirk Today on a broadcasting network as well. So he rose up, I guess, like rose to fame like quite quickly. Maybe like Turning Point was started in 2012, but I think it really became a big movement together with Trump's re-election, and he was before his death, of course, an integral part of Trump's propaganda, and he was a close, ally and friend of his. Anyways, so again, as I said, like close allies to Donald Trump, especially his son Donald Trump Jr. Chaired Students for Trump in 2019, and he aimed to recruit 1 million students for Trump's re-election campaign. And he was technically unsuccessful for the election, but he did, I think, still make a lot of noise in the, you know, in academic zones and everything else. So he also co-founded the Falkirk Center, when at Liberty University, basically, with Jerry Falwell Jr., and then it was later dissolved. He was a member of Council for National Policy, CNP, a hub for conservative activists and donors, and he also served briefly on the U.S. Air Force Academy Board of Visitors, appointed by Trump himself in 2025. So, yeah, he became quite the central figure in MAGA circles, I guess. And of course, being part of MAGA immediately grants you a pass to becoming, like, one of the most controversial people on the planet, and being involved in several. Like, I think actually to become a prominent MAGA figure, you have to be spreading a lot of misinformation. And that's what he was, to be fair. Like, he was a conspiracy theorist, in my opinion. Apart from, like, being representative of the very religious far-right movement, I think he also was gripping on so many people because of his conspiracies and people's mistrust and people's low literacy when it comes to, like, media literacy in that sense. So he thrived off of that 100%. So let's go through some of his controversies. Christian nationalism. He was initially secular himself, but he then shifted towards advocating for the U.S. as a Christian nation, basically. And he allied himself with, like, Christian nationalists and far right supporters. So that's that. Then I think in January 6th of 2021, he also was he played an active role also in the rally, in the DC rally, but then later pleaded the fifth before the House of Committee. Regarding culture and race, he criticized the Civil Rights Act of 1964, calling it an anti-white weapon. A lot of nonsense there. Shifted from praising MLK to later condemning him as awful and mythologized. And then he opposed also DI initiatives, often in racially charged terms. So a lot of weird shit, a lot of controversy, something that you would expect from someone like him, I guess. Like, if you can expect anything from someone who's a very close friend of Trump, then this is it, I guess. It doesn't get any better than this. Of course, he was a major proponent of many other conspiracy theories, like the COVID-19, the Wuhan situation, and blaming a lot of other situations in the U.S. to the Democrats. He was also pretty much spreading misinformation about the 2020 election, and as you can tell from his involvement in the January 6th rally. And he also spread a lot of misinformation on George Floyd, and he denied that he was killed by the police several times, I think, in several different tweets and interviews. Regarding immigration, he had, of course, very hot takes on how the U.S. should handle it, arguing in favor of a total immigration shutdown for the U.S. He also promoted false stories about Haitian migrants, the one about the eating the dogs and all that stuff that you are very familiar with, I assume. The Springfield situation, I think it was. Regarding LGBTQ rights, what can you expect? Of course, he's guess it after me, homophobe, anti-LGBTQ, of course. I think he called the Obergefell and the Odge a national takeover. He's spreading constantly rumors about, he used to spread constant rumors about, transsexual people becoming, the herald of an assault onto the government, and they're trying to, like, how gay people are trying to infiltrate politics to take over and topple down the system. How this rhetoric about, like, gay people is very dangerous for, of course, children, and it's a brainwash that is trying to be imposed over schools by Democratic officials and all that stuff. So usual run of the mill, I guess, for people like this. It was coming from this type of camp. So camp, looking at queer right in the eye. But anyways, about abortion, of course, he's of course, being very Catholic himself and being very much allied with the far right, he's of course opposed to all types of abortions, even in cases of rape or minors. During his very famous Jubilee interview, he said that even if his daughter of 10 was raped by a man, he would still make her have the baby. Silence on that. Big silence on that. And he also compared actually abortion to the Holocaust. So, yeah, damn. Anyways, regarding gun rights, strong Second Amendment advocate, even went on to say that gun deaths are an acceptable cost of freedom, and it's quite ironic since he also was killed by gun violence. So let's brush over that, I guess. Several points are being taken, I guess. I think it's not that difficult to see a pattern here. Like a very hypocritical person who ironically got killed by something that he advocated for. So that's that. Regarding foreign policy, this is actually very important. I think here that we stop a moment here because it's going to come back later when I talk about Candace Owens. Regarding Israel specifically, he was fiercely, I guess, pro Israel. He condemned Palestine, and he was for the longest time very much pro-Israel without any sort of criticisms attached. And then I would say recently became quite critical of Netanyahu, and he did talk several times about his sort of influence over American politics and Trump specifically. So keep a pin there, I guess. Regarding Ukraine, he opposed, of course, U.S. aid, repeated pro-Russian narratives. He actually has been quite the pro-Russia. He was probably one of the biggest fans of Putin, actually. Regarding China and Taiwan, he advocated for a more aggressive stance, but also warned against war because he does still think that China is a threat when it comes to nuclear weapons. And regarding climate change, of course, he spread multiple hoaxes and misinformation about being a construct of different activist parties and activists and parties as well. And he also linked environmentalism to Marxism. So for him, that goes part and parcel with Marxism and left wing politics. So yeah, again, his death, his assassination, I guess, in the Utah Valley University, while speaking at one of his TPUSA events, did become one of the most talked about topics in the past weekend or so, for obvious reasons, of course. As you can tell already from what I've told you, being such a prominent figure in U.S. politics and specifically so closely attached to Trump, it has become, whether it's for the right reasons or for the wrong reasons, one of the most talked about people recently. So Trump, after his death, has promised multiple times that he would give him the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and he did talk about having several other investigations done privately. International attention has also gathered around this topic as well. Several new debates have sparked over political violence and gun control, and many leaders worldwide have condemned, of course, the use of violence to bring forward your political opinion or whatever might have motivated, I guess, the killer. Regarding his legacy, I guess you can say that he was quite a controversial topic, the controversial figure, for obvious reasons. And again, he practically made his brand, like through rage bait and through dissemination of hatred, I would say, and especially I think by targeting several minorities, and to be, quite frankly, mostly I would say like not open to other people's perspectives, despite him being, the head of pro debate organization. He was quite the closed off person, when it comes to like, all of these debates. I mean, if you've seen him in any of these debates, he seems quite, quite quite hard to crack and quite hard to like, be proven wrong, in a sense that he cannot, he cannot realize, or maybe he doesn't want to realize the bullshit that he's saying, frankly. But in any event, he, for his own political reasons, for his own activism in the wrong places, I personally am not willing to be hyper empathetic about his death. I, at the same time, do not condone the violence itself, and I do not like some of the stuff that is circling around the internet, making fun of the incident itself. But I do realize that, frankly, sometimes people are, whatever his reasoning was, and whether he was like truthfully believing in anything he said, some people do attract a lot of attention because of how much hatred he put outside, and they become a target for the same violence that they put out. So it's just sometimes how the world unfortunately works. So maybe if he had been a bit more, sensible about certain topics, he wouldn't have become enemy number one of many different people. So not to say that I condone that, of course, but it is somehow how the world turns around. So yeah. Anyway, so after his death, I think you can also tell that the US has become extremely, even more polarized than ever, because, the way the different parties have reacted to it, to the death itself, can tell you a lot about how America feels about the politics right now. A lot of mistrust, a lot of questions, and frankly, what is even more scary, I think what really is taking over is just more like a conspiracy approach to anything that happens now in politics or over deaths, and it's sort of like making us go away from the actual real issues at hand, which are, of course, gun violence, gun control, what needs to be, changed in the system, and how to actually change things in the system. But yeah, I mean, as I said, many conspiracies have gone around, and far-right people are, of course, trying to spin this around and blame the left for the execution. Far-left people are also saying that the young suspect is instead secretly a MAGA supporter who was told to kill him because he was gaining too much traction over Trump. But what I find most intriguing is, and I guess most unusual, is Candace Owens, of course, as I was saying. She is, again, another far-right political activist who is instead going after the government itself, casting doubts over the Republicans and Netanyahu, and throwing Israel and Palestine into this banner. What's most important, according to me, is, yeah, at least that's my opinion. That's my opinion. But I think, to me, like, why is she such an interesting perspective? Not to say she's correct. I personally don't think she's correct on maybe like 90% of the things she said, but I do think she's quite an interesting person to listen to in this moment, with a critical cap on, of course. Please do wear it. And I do also want to shout out my friend Maeve, who really ignited this in me, I guess, like really inspired me to like go into the Candace Owens territory as well, with taking everything with a grain of salt, of course. I think she's the most interesting person because, like, she was a very close person to him, first of all. Like, there's plenty of photos of them together, and they were constantly in touch. They kept on talking till the very last minute as well. There was a lot that she probably knows, and she hasn't revealed also in the latest episode that she put out of her podcast. So she is someone to look out for, I guess. Just to see what her take on is on someone who she knows so well, right? So automatically, I think this makes her way more interesting than any other person on the internet at the moment, as well. And her theories have gained a lot of traction as well. Her latest episode on her podcast, as I said, you can go and listen to it. It's a full 1 hour episode if you want. But to be more succinct and more, more poignant, I guess, her conspiracy basically goes as follows, right? Kirk, despite having been a long-time supporter of Israel, he was recently becoming more and more critical of Netanyahu, and which is, sort of true, in a sense that you could see from several other interviews that he was doing recently, where he was becoming wary of his influence over US politics, much like herself, much like Candace herself, Owens. In the past few months, she claims that Kirk was intensely pressured by benefactors and sponsors of his Turning Point USA to limit his own critiques and to instead spread a more positive depiction of Netanyahu and Israel. She claims that there had been meetings between him and other prominent pro-Israel figures, and that Netanyahu himself had also tried to blackmail him under the pretense of under an invitation to Israel itself, like saying that I think he invited him to go to Israel to meet up with him or whatever. Again, she tells that in the episode that she has proof of this, but no proof is actually shown in the episode, if I have to be honest. Like, she talks about this, she does mostly theorize about this, but she does say multiple times that she has the proof and she's not scared of putting it out, but she never does in the episode, as far as I saw. I mean, I listened to the whole thing and I watched also the video on YouTube, but she never does. She threatens to, she warns people that she would expose other people in the TPUSA who are trying to sweep in and take the chairmanship, but she never does actually put anything out. So, I mean, she's putting, one thing about her though, she's putting herself out there, to be fair. Like, she is talking about all these things, and I think it's even maybe like a way of protecting herself, maybe, to not put out the exact proof of this. But again, it becomes a bit unsubstantiated, I guess, when she talks about several of these things. And to me, it falls immediately into a conspiracy, because again, where is the proof? And again, there's always, in any sort of like article fact, there's always another way of spinning around it. I mean, also, it doesn't really help that the government at the moment is like quite incompetent, and the FBI itself is quite incompetent in the way they're dealing with this investigation. So it doesn't really help anyone, but it does give credit to her own theory about this whole situation. But again, without cold proof, I'm not willing to, of course, take this as a matter of fact. But it's just, again, interesting exercise of thought to give into this for a few moments and then reassess. She also states that Netanyahu has concealed truth in his interview 24 hours after Kirk's death. He was interviewed by Fox News, I believe. Netanyahu read part of a letter written by Kirk, allegedly, in that interview, and Owens believes that this was just a manipulation of real information containing the letter to make it seem that Kirk instead died as a martyr for Israel. She does, I think, claim that he only read a couple of sentences and not the full thing. And Owens thinks that Netanyahu is also being dishonest, and as he keeps pretending that nothing has happened between him and Kirk prior to his death, in terms of these, meetings and tension growing. Netanyahu was also asked briefly to address the rumors that Israel could be behind the assassination, but Netanyahu immediately diverted the attention to how Jewish people are always being used as scapegoat for political issues, and bringing in the Holocaust. And Owens reproaches him for doing that, because she thinks that it's just like playing a green card that no one is going to question, because whenever you bring in the Holocaust, you're expected, I guess, to be extremely respectful and not having any sort of hot takes on it. Owens in the rest of the interview also goes over some of the discrepancies in the reports about the assassination, saying that someone is trying to she says she also says that she doesn't know who, but someone is trying to confuse the general population with a waterboard of information that still remains inconclusive, of course, while also hiding ulterior motives and ultimately the truth. And I think that's where conspiracies, thrive the most, when an investigation is not being concluded yet, and there's still so much up left in the air. That's when the conspiracies really thrive in a way. She also seems to hint that the government is trying to cover the story up, further adding to the Israel conspiracy, I think. But it does not help also, as I said, the fact that the FBI has not been exactly clear about yet, at least, how many of the details of this of how the assassination went down. And also, it doesn't really help, I think, the fact that the FBI has been called into question by the Congress itself, especially Patel has been called into question for providing confusing information and conducting a very poor investigation. So it doesn't really help that. But anyways, overall, however, I would still encourage people to take all of this with a very big grain of salt, again, because Owens is, after all, someone who actively quotes Kanye West in any fucking podcast episode that she can, and Kanye West, and in many of her episodes, she sort of references him as if she's her biggest fan, so his biggest fan. So this sort of tells you and gives you an idea of how political sentiments are, how she's influenced by the wrong people, I guess, in a way, and she's not really the most reliable person when it comes to these things sometimes. But it does help, I guess, to give you a snapshot of what's going on maybe in the US. She definitely represents an ever-growing section of the right that is now very much anti-establishment, to the point where she's going against the very Republican government and Trump that I assume she voted for. But I don't think anti-establishment is simply something that has to do with right or left divide or any of the sort. This is definitely a sentiment that has been brewing and growing in the US for many, many years, and in the rest of the world as well, I would say. I've talked about this ad nauseum in my episode about specifically Luigi Manjo, and I think there's a lot of interesting parallels also there. So I do invite you to listen to that one. But who is to say also maybe whoever killed Kirk was also someone who was extremely unhappy with Trump and his MAGA supporters and saw no possible change through the system or through voting, and decided to go rogue and use gun violence as his only resort to see change. Again, it does not help the fact that gun control is practically almost non-existent in the US. If anything, it does facilitate violence, but this is ultimately the American voters, what the American voters have built through these many years, and you reap what you sow. So, yeah. But again, I do also, invite you to read more about this topic, to be more aware of what's going on, and maybe, if you want to consume any of this media, to do it, with, of course, a critical cap on, and always question what is being told to you, and who is this story benefiting, and who is being portrayed as, the evil person here, and who is being, condemned. And there's always someone who benefits from a story being spun in a way, And I do find it quite interesting that in many parts of the interview, she goes up every two, I think she does it at least 3 or 4 times in this episode. She really goes after other people in TPUSA, saying that she knows who they know who they are, and she knows who they are, and that if they try to spin this around and try to sweep into the chairmanship of TPUSA, that she will expose them with texts. She does say that she doesn't want anyone to become a new chairman of TPUSA, but low-key, this basically, maybe she wants it, because she is also involved, I think, with TPUSA. I think she said I think she said in the episode she's definitely involved with it, and she's very much a supporter and a member of it. So this makes you think that maybe she's also pushing a propaganda to become herself the chairman of the of TV series. So I wouldn't be surprised if it actually went in that direction. But in any event, go listen to the episode yourself, maybe, and see what it has to offer. Um, but that's all for this, I think, for now. Stick with me because we have a sponsor, and after the sponsor, I will get into the songs of the week. Hello. Now, this is the moment we all been waiting for because I have another sponsor for today. And my sponsor is something that I actually am very keen to start using because I just, as some of you may know, I've started working out as well, and I need something to fuel me. And what better way to being fueled by clear whey protein powder? Clear whey protein powder is the protein shake that's not really a shake at all. You know how most protein powders are like thick, chalky, honestly kind of like a chore to drink because they're so thick and like so filling in a way. Clear whey changes the game in my opinion because it's a crystal clear, light and refreshing protein shake, more like a sports drink than a heavy shake itself. With 20 grams of pure whey isolate, zero sugar, zero lactose as well. It's a clean fuel for your body that won't leave you feeling bloated. You just need to mix it with water, no milk needed, no extra calories, no clumps, nothing, no chalky milkshakes. And the flavors, well, forget chocolate and forget vanilla. We are honestly in the most fruity territory ever here. We have strawberry, watermelon, and wild blue raspberry, sweet, juicy, perfect after workout or whenever you need a protein boost, but also like a refreshing protein shake. When you're trying to build muscle, recover faster, or just keep your nutrition on point, to be fair, like you can use clear whey in as a substitute for your normal protein shake, and it gives you everything you want in a protein drink and nothing you don't. So if you want to make your post-workout routine taste as good as it feels, try clear whey protein powder and elevate your protein game today. Right, so we're back with songs of the week, and I have 4 very good songs. They're all in the R&B slash soul category a bit. First one is Sunshine Girl demo version by Jacob, well, Jacob with a K, Jacob, I don't know. Either way, I found this artist through Clairo because he has a song with her, and I just found out about a song and I was like, this guy seems interesting. Let me check it out. And he has so many good songs. I'm obsessed. Like, he has so many great songs. I do invite you to like actually listen to his catalog if you can. But if you had to choose one song, please make it the Sunshine Girl demo version because there's different versions of it, but the demo version is the best one, I think. Very almost like Tyler the Creator-y type of song. Very similar to that. It reminds me also a bit of can't remember his name. Ryan Beatty, whatever. That song is just so good. Sunshine Girl, I really, really recommend it. Then I also have Shoot Firecracker by Taeyeon from Twice, and she put out a full album called Little Fantasy Volume 1, but Shoot Firecracker is the main song, like the title track from the album, and it is very much, I would say, inspired by the Mariahs, maybe, kind of, sort of, like that sort of very almost R&B vibe, like very dreamy production, very, very cool. And I think it really fits her vibe, and I think she's really putting, like, a spin. The one thing about JYP is that no matter what they're doing with the groups that I don't really like, whatever they do with that, I don't know why they do that, but they still seem to have an incredible vision for each of their solo artists, like Yeji with Air, or like Nayeon with both pop and what was it, the one that was very Beyonce inspired. Anyways, like, their soloists are treated so well. They have the best concept and the best music and the best songs, and I'm wondering why can we not like put that into the groups, like more clear vision on their sound and visuals as well. Either way, Shoot Firecracker is incredible. The entire EP, sorry, I think it's a full album actually, yeah, is also so good. So I do recommend seeing checking it out pretty much front to back. And yeah, then the next one I want to talk about is Catching Bodies by Seko. That is more like of a soul influence type of track. Really cool, incredible vocal performance by Seko. Really like a very deep voice, very soulful. Really enjoy it. I think it's very easy to listen to as well. It's quite fits with the vibe of the other songs that I put this week, and very cool. And then I have an old one, which is Love TKO by Teddy Pendergrass, and I do not know much about Teddy Pendergrass, but I know he is an incredible R&B artist. This album I think is quite old, but just dreamy production, very sensual also production as well. Love TKO, also incredible. You can already tell from the title that it's what it is about. Complete knockout from love, I guess. So if you don't want to feel any sort of way about this, whatever. But I do feel a lot of way about many different songs, and this is one of them. I think this really moves me. So I recommend listening to this one expeditiously, please. And you can find all these songs in the playlist of the month, which is the Overture Pamphlet Songs of the Week, September 2025, available on Spotify. Please go check it out. You will have a blast. Every month I collect the songs of the week for that month in that playlist. So this one is September 2025. So have a ball with that. Have a ball. And I'll see you next week with a new episode coming out on Monday. I sure hope it does.